We have a new update on the Nick Diaz situation. As we know, Nick Diaz has been struggling with addiction the same way that BJ Penn has been dealing with his addiction. Well, we have his girlfriend coming out right now and saying some crazy stuff about his cousin bringing him to Mexico and the facility refusing to let him out. So we're gonna go through all of it. I'm gonna share my point of view. I'm going to share how these institutions, how these rehab facilities work, because I spent 3 times in them, well, in one in the last 2 years. I know what's going on as far as the process with this, and I know from my comments on my PJ Pen video, you guys, some of you guys have dealt with your things, some of you know what's up. So, for those of you that don't know, I'm going to break it down right here. We start off with this article though. Nick Diaz drugged and forcibly taken to a rehab center in Mexico, confined against his will. And we're not gonna read that. Insomnia. I'm not sure what to make of this post from Nick Diaz's girlfriend, alleging that he was kidnapped and forced into rehab. I hope the best for Stockton's finest, but this is much more negative than the most recent previous update. Now I pulled it up over here. We're gonna go through this, and I'm gonna come back and go through the comments too. Nick Diaz, this is coming from K209X. This is Nick Diaz's girlfriend. She's the same one that posted the video of him lighting random stuff on fire in front of a random building years ago. She says Nick Diaz has been forcibly taken by his cousin and transported across the border into Mexico, where he is confined in a rehabilitation facility against his will. He was drugged during this process and has made numerous attempts to escape, but the authorities consistently return him to the facility. Communication with him is severely restricted. I'm unable to speak with him or receive updates directly. All information must be relayed to a man named Ruben, who is responsible for his placement in the facility. Nick does not wish to remain at the facility. He desires to return home to California and attend a drug rehabilitation program there. He is also seeking to understand who has the authority to keep him confined in Mexico against his wishes at Barza Rehab, hashtag repost at Nick Diaz 209. So, as somebody who understands treatment facilities, the different forms you go under. Again, this is coming from the Alberta perspective. This is the process that I had to go through when I dealt with psychosis. If you guys haven't watched any of my BJ Penn videos, I went through a weed induced psychosis multiple times. Happened after high school. I did nothing but smoke weed all day, and that made me go insane. I said a lot of crazy things. I blew through my savings. Um, but basically, there's two different admissions. Admissions mean, how you go into these facilities. And in Alberta, it's two forms. You got a Form 11, which is you going in on your own, you self admitting, and at least in Canada, I think it's a maximum of 30 days they can hold you unless you sign a Form 12. Oh no, I think the Form 11 is the one they sign if you don't sign the Form 12. Anyways, point is, two different admissions. You self admit, or you are brought in by the authorities, the cops, and that is a different one. When you self admit, there's a maximum 30-day period they can hold you unless you sign the Form 12 that I mentioned, or your doctor signed a Form 11, which then you go to a panel with a judge, you plead your case, the um, hospital or the doctors plead their case in court, and the ruling will determine whether you stay in or not. I actually had somebody my third stay there, um, who self-admitted his family wanted him to. Then the moment his family met with the doctors, met with the nurses, they instantly knew it was not the right place for him. Like he stole a truck, right? But like he's a very smart, intelligent guy. Admitted that it was him who stole that truck. Like he did say, well, you know, it was a God put that truck right there for me. But he still did express the fact that it was his actions, right? But the problem is, unless you have a really good doctor, unless you have a really good nurse, they basically see you as trial and error. They basically see you as another number in the system. They want to put you on what medication that they can put you on. Some of the doctors are doing it for the better people. Other doctors are just there to make their money. And I respect that. I respect that. Well, I don't. If somebody went through it 3 times and I saw a little bit of the corruption in them, it's, yeah, but I don't know. I watched Jesse on Fire's video before this, and he actually made a lot of good points. He's also another person that is open about what he's been through. But if you guys have ever dealt with addiction, whether it's pills, weed, alcohol, harder drugs, right? The only person that can get out of it is you. The only person that can stop somebody from using is themselves. And that's the difficult part with BJ Penn, with Nick Diaz. The updates that I've had about Nick Diaz before this one was Nick was doing good, Nick was going through treatment, and he was working through his issues. But now it's kind of interesting that you have his longtime girlfriend saying she has no contact with him. But that is kind of what happens with the confidentiality. Like my parents brought me in to my stays, which meant they they were involved in the process. They knew most of what was going on. Still, communication was piss poor. Um, but yeah, when I look at what's going on with Nick, what's being alleged with Nick, if it is methamphetamine, he needs an antipsychotic, the same way BJ Penn needs it. And the issue is that with meth, not many people get out of it. Not many people are able to drop it. From my experience, I've only met 2 people, and I live downtown. I know a lot of meth addicts. Most of them are nice. Obviously, I wouldn't call them my best friends. I wouldn't invite them in my house. But they're good dudes. I chat with them when I see them. Say what's up. I will smoke with them. Cigarette. I want to clarify that. Um, yeah, this is genuinely addiction is only up to the patient. And I learned that after wasting 2 times in my facility, when I went in there, my parents brought me in there, and I had no intention of stopping smoking. I had no intention of cutting down, and it wasn't until my third stay where that one was fooling me. I called the hotline. I'm not gonna get into detail, but I was at the point where if nothing changed, I didn't want to be around. And I went up there. I got back on my medication. I actually switched over. I take Seroquel. I switched over to the extended release. It does miracles for me. I take it every night before bed, and it makes my thoughts more clear. I'm more concise than what I would be. Obviously, I have a disability. I have cerebral palsy. I talk like Walter Jr. It is what it is. But again, with meth addiction, there are guys that I know that have been in and out of these facilities for years and years, and they will probably continue for years. There's this is gonna hurt a lot of people, but there's absolutely nothing you can do when it comes to watching somebody go through addiction. You can hide their stuff, you can take their stuff away. They're gonna be able to go get more, right? And I want this to be solved before anything bad happens to Nick. I don't, Nick isn't accusing his family of being replaced by federal agents or wearing masks or, you know, he's not breaking any restraining orders or anything like that. This is Nick going through a very hard time. I believe that Nick can recover. I think it was Jake Shields came out months ago, said he was doing good, and then we got this one. But before I wrap this all up with a motivational speech for all of you and for me especially because we all need this. We know that this community, a lot of us struggle with a lot of things on a daily basis. And the cliche, you're not alone. Everybody is going through it. And if you push hard enough, you believe hard enough, you can achieve your dreams. Conceive, believe, achieve, as Michael Bisping puts it. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna start at the beginning of Nick Diaz's career. So he beat Mike Wick in his first fight, round one triangle. Beat Chris Weidel. Chris Weidel was one of the OGs back in the day. Lost to Jimmy Jackson by TKO. Went over to our. This is a tournament, yeah. Lost the first fight in the tournament. Submitted Adam one TKO Brian Tyler, and corner stoppage against Harris Sarmento. Now he goes over to Shooto Brazil for the 2002 year end show. Loses to Konoshi Hironaka by split decision. A really good fight though. Then he went to WEC, submitted Joe Hurley for the belt. TKO Jimmy Jackson, submitted Jimmy Jackson right after when he debuted in the UFC with a third round armbar. He had the first Robbie Lawler fight. You guys remember he came back and fought Robbie Lawler the second time. Looked awful. This was an unbelievable performance against Robbie Lawler. Again, Robbie Lawler at the time was a beast. Young Robbie Lawler, same growing style that he kept through his entire career. Nobody thought Nick Diaz could beat Robbie Lawler. He walks to the cage. You guys know the Joe Rogan clip. Looks Robbie Lawler dead in the eye and screams, "Stockton, motherfucker! Stockton!" And Robbie Lawler was very thrown off by it. And like I said, this young Nick Diaz put the work on Robbie Lawler and got him out in the second round. Then he had a grappling match at IBJJF, won against Michael Mile Milois, however you say it. Went back to UFC, lost to KO Parisian by split decision. KO Parisian was a big name back then. Drew Pickett, he came back, TKO'd in the first round. Went and did a boxing match on April 29th against Alfonso Rocha, won by unanimous decision. Beat Koji Oshii. Then he ended up fighting Diego Sanchez at the Ultimate Fighter 2 finale, lost by unanimous decision. Again, Diego Sanchez, another guy that dealt with his issues. Fuck you, Josh Bobby. I hope you rot. Then he fought Joe Riggs, infamously fought Bruce Buffer in an elevator. Big dude, still a good fight. Lost to Sean Shirk. Another guy juiced to the gills. Was on an incredible run. You see a 32-1. Really wasn't until he ran into GSP where everything kind of fell apart from. Then beat Ray Steinbrist at the California Regional. Submitted Josh Neer. KO'd Gleison Tavola. Beat had a no contest against Takanori Gomi. Beat Mike by split decision. He had this very weird loss to KJ Noons. Now, I want to stress this. 4-5 win streak before this fight. Stupidest doctor stoppage right here. Came back though. Corner stoppage against Katsu and Obe. TKO motion. Cobre, Dennis, Thomas Denny. KO Frank Shamrock. Beat Scott Smith. Went over the strike force on this 2-fight win streak. Won the belt against Maurice Zanomsky by TKO. Submitted Hayoto Sakuri. Fought KJ Noons again. Beat him by decision. Evan Santos he submitted by an armbar. Paul Daly, another big name back then. Actually, Paul Daly is leading another antitrust lawsuit. I just covered that a week ago. First on TKO. Fights BJ Penn. The mentioned BJ Penn, who is going through what he's going through right now. Beat him by unanimous decision in 2011. And that was his last win. Supposed to fight George St. Pierre on February 4th. I think that's the press conference he no-showed. Ended up fighting Carlos Condit, losing by unanimous decision. A lot of funny moments in that press conference. Lost to George St. Pierre, like he accused George St. Pierre of cheating and greasing and all that stuff. He had a very weird fight with Anderson Silva where they both were just taunting one another. Nick Diaz laid down in the middle of the fight, but it was overturned because of a positive weed test for Nick Diaz and Silva popped for steroids. Now, for popping for marijuana, once again, he got a suspension. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years for a positive weed test when TJ Dillashaw got a slap on the wrist. Khalil Roundtree got a title shot after popping for steroids. You look at the drug suspensions now, this is the most ridiculous one that has ever been handed out. They then did shorten it to 2 years because of the public backlash. But this basically ended Nick Diaz's career. He did come back and fight Robbie Lawler in 2021, but he looked awful in that fight. And then we know last year they were trying to get a fight with Vicente Luque done, but then all of this stuff appeared, and Nick Diaz has been struggling in and out of treatment. Now, as I end this video off, two things. If you don't, same way with BJ Penn, if you've never watched a Nick Diaz fight, go do yourself a service and go watch that Strike Force run. Nick Diaz in Strike Force was one of the greatest fighters we have ever seen. Like, like I said, that was basically like a 16 fight unbeaten streak with two bullshit losses. But comments here. There's this video that surfaced years ago. You guys remember this one?
Nick,
What? What are you doing?
are you okay?
Who's that for?
Are you all right?
Yes.
So I believe that was Nick Diaz's girlfriend, the same girlfriend that made this post, recording a video of him starting fires in front of some gym or whatever. And then this is a big one from BBJ Ninja Recovery. The latest rumor from you know who to inquire minds. Do you genuinely believe that Nick Diaz would be kidnapped and held against his will, drugged to prevent escape, and then his captors, allegedly affiliated with the cartel, would demand a ransom of $1,000 from his family? Comment and share. I really want to know the public what the public really believes, and UFC with Nate Diaz is funding all of these allegations of Nick Diaz abduction and mistreatment. Now, I don't think he was abducted. I don't think this is that big of a conspiracy. I think that this is a guy going through psychosis who really needs a detox. The same way with BJ Penn. The treatment facility, I can actually see the treatment facility um having horrible communication. Again, I had horrible communication with my family up until the third time, and that was mainly because my doctor, me, and my family developing that relationship. But this is very important, man. I want the UFC to step in. I want everybody in the MMA community to be aware of these situations with these older guys and newer guys. Addiction is a very serious issue that we are all facing. Fighters, the corporate UFC, most importantly, the fans. You gotta take care of yourself, man. You gotta work out and you gotta push to the next day and make sure you're constantly progressing. But let me know, what do you think about this current situation with Nick Diaz? I will keep you updated the same way I keep you updated with the BJ Penn case. That's all I got, though. Later.